Welcome to Sister Sessions, a podcast where two sisters on very different journeys explore what it means to live spiritually in today's world. My sister, Jenny Fairbank, is the co-founder and spiritual director of Wisdom Pathways, a yoga and meditation teacher, and a somatic healer devoted to guiding others toward inner peace. And I'm Susie Gustin, a mom of three, producer and owner of Red City Live Entertainment, embracing life's joys while searching for deeper meaning. Together, we have honest, relatable conversations about finding balance, purpose, and connection in everyday life. So, settle in. You're exactly where you need to be. Welcome to Sister Sessions. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sister Sessions, episode 10.
Yes.
Welcome, Jenny. I know. And it's fun because this is going to be a special Valentine's edition.
Nice.
Is it Valentine edition or Valentine's edition?
Valentine's.
Valentine's edition. So, just so everyone knows, this is not rehearsed. I'm really throwing this right at Jenny. I have prepared a fun little game show style Valentine's edition. I figured we can talk about love in a fun way. And I'm going to ask Jenny some questions. And Jenny, you can feel free to elaborate on the answers or not. My reason for this is, there's so many people have different views on Valentine's Day. So when I was like, we're going to do a Valentine's, I personally love it because give me any excuse to call a day a holiday. Why would I say no? People are like, well, I tell my husband every day. Well, that's not, it's a reason for extra. And I love extra.
You do love extra.
So I'm totally in. And then also I'm thinking let's just brief people because all the new listeners we have, let's brief people that don't know us. Like maybe they think that I'm single or you're single or what our story is. So interested in briefing. I have been married for 8 years and I'm happily married. And that's my current story.
Beautiful.
I was married once before. I am twice married. So this is my second marriage. Yes, I was married before with the same person for 12 years. And now I was on the dating scene for a couple of years in between. And now I'm happily married for 8 years.
Wonderful. It's a beautiful marriage too. I love it. I actually this day, which is the 10th of February, I met my husband 26 years ago on this day.
Oh, that's so cool. 26 years.
Yes, we have been very happy for 26 years. I mean, there are ups and downs in every relationship, but our love has never waned and it has grown very.
I think it's fun to say that Jenny and Dave did one of those cool things where you had a ceremony for your 20th wedding anniversary and you renewed your vows, which I think is really cool.
We did, and it was so very special. I mean, 20 years prior, we were very different people and, together for 3 years before we got married. But, you still don't really know somebody as deeply, of course, as you would 20 years later. And it was a great, beautiful ceremony. And I'm so glad we did it. It was magical. And I want to do it again, for maybe our 30th and our 40th. And
yeah make it every decade.
And it doesn't have to be something really elaborate. I mean, we kind of went all out. We had a very beautiful ceremony out in the woods at our the retreat center that we lived and operated, and a nice big gathering and catered and all the things. And I think, that was a beautiful celebration. And I think next time it will probably be a little different, like everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So going right in. I should probably put my glasses on.
All right. Yes, sister, put on your glasses. Don't be shamed. I love my glasses.
It'll take me too long to get them. Okay, here we go. The first game we're going to play is called Love It or Leave It. Okay, I'm going to say a romantic trend, and you're going to tell me if you're all in or totally out. And you can feel free to tell us why if you want. That's up to you. All right, the first romantic trend. Grand romantic gestures.
I don't think it's either love or leave it. I think it's on occasion. And when you feel called to do it, not because you have to do it. And this is something that Dave and I have talked about a lot over the years, and we laugh about it. There was this one year, and I have to share this, it's hilarious. We were living in Austin. We had to both run to the store for something, the grocery store, and it was on Valentine's Day. And we almost, I swear I've never laughed so hard. The entire store was filled with men carrying flowers and or chocolates and or cards. The entire store, all the men in line at the grocery store, it was after work. It was hilarious. And I looked at Dave and I said, do not ever do this for me. Do not ever just feel like out of obligation, I have to go and get my wife flowers because it's Valentine's Day. So I think grand gestures are incredible and beautiful when it sparks you, when it feels right, not because you have to or it's an obligatory thing. So that's my story.
I like it. All right. Love it all in or totally out? Love at first sight.
Again, I would go towards it's possible. It's not, and not everybody experiences that. So it's not all or nothing. It's like,
because I feel like also there's a lot more lust at first sight than there is love at first sight, right? You feel like love at first sight is not as...
Yes, it's not as common. I would definitely say that. I think
was your love at first sight?
Interest, for sure. Both of us, I wouldn't say I fell in love with him, no, because I didn't know him. But there is soul, we have soul contracts. We have deep relationships that last for lifetimes. And so I do believe in love at first sight. Absolutely. How rare it is, I don't know, but I do believe it's pretty rare. And I think it's a picking up from previous lives because, that's where my belief lies. I
would agree with that. All right. You're all in or you're totally out? Matching couple outfits.
Totally out.
You're going to have a big reaction.
100% no. I didn't even like that at Kennywood. Whoever's in Pittsburgh would know this, right? When we were young and I was young and we were young, right? We'd do matching outfits at Kennywood. I didn't even like that.
Amusement park. Yeah. Okay. All in or all out? Astrology-based love compatibility.
That's a tricky one. I think all of these answers really could be yes or no, and no, both, because astrology is a science and there is something to it. But I would not suggest to live your life based on your astrology, right? Like, because people do, and it's a very cultural thing in certain areas. And I know India has a very big cultural thing around that, and when you should marry and are your charts compatible and all of the things. Just don't put all of your stock in that. But it's interesting and fun to consider.
Okay, this one is called, you're going to answer divine or disaster. I'm going to describe a love scenario, and you'll tell me if it's divine alignment or a total disaster. You meet someone amazing, but Mercury is in retrograde. Divine alignment or total disaster?
Neither. I mean, honestly.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So we're going with neither.
Neither.
Okay. All right. Divine alignment or total disaster. Your partner forgets Valentine's Day, but plans a huge surprise the next day.
Alignment.
Okay. You and your crush keep running into each other in weird places like the dentist.
Definitely divine alignment.
Your ex suddenly reappears just as you're moving on.
Divine alignment.
See, I'm going with total disaster on that one.
Well, it really depends on your ex.
Yeah. Okay.
Still, though, hold on one moment, though. It really is all divine alignment, by the way, because everything is. So anything can be a disaster depending on how you handle things and what is in your highest good. However, all is divine. So everything that happens is an opportunity for us to learn and grow and to expand our understanding and learn something. I would say most of these are going to be divine alignment, even if it could turn into a disaster.
Okay. You pull a tarot card about love and it's the Tower.
Divine alignment.
Apparently the Tower is not good in this
No.
situation. I'm not really super familiar with the tarot cards. Okay, so this is called Who's More Likely to Be Your Soulmate? The person who shares your deepest values or the one who challenges you to grow?
Ooh. And how do I answer this? What are the questions?
Who is more likely to be your soulmate? The person that shares your deepest values or the person that challenges you to grow? I don't know what this is. My hands.
So neither are soulmates, most likely. Soulmate is a very misunderstood concept in our culture. So, I mean, I could go into all that, but like
Oh, we're
soulmates.
going to go. I want to go into all that. Let's finish these quick soulmate questions and then we can talk
Okay.
about soulmate. Soulmate, who is more likely to be? Someone who writes you love letters or the one who makes you laugh until you cry?
I mean, both of these are gorgeous, right? Even the first two you said, you want to be aligned in your values with someone, and you really want someone that's going to challenge your growth. I mean, all of it. And I believe we can have all of it.
Yeah. So the last question is, more likely to be your soulmate, the person who's exactly your type or the one who's totally unexpected?
Yeah, that's really, I would go with more. If I have to answer one or the other, I would go with more that's unexpected.
I've never dated anyone or had a relationship with someone that was exactly my type. I don't even know what that would feel like.
What is your type? Do you even know? I mean, how do we even really know what our type is? Our
Right.
type is only what we're attracted to. So,
True. Yeah, I think when I think of type, I think like that is like me. Maybe I'm using it incorrectly because that's what I go to is like someone I've never dated or been in a relationship with someone who was very similar to me. Does that
right.
make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I thought that that is my type.
No, that's not
But I
your
guess
type.
that doesn't no because it's like who you're attracted to.
Exactly. Who you're
Yeah.
attracted to is really your type. And sometimes too much alike can be detrimental. Sometimes it's beautiful. The thing about all this is there's so many variables. It's not a yes or no, right or wrong, black or white, any of it, right? There's layers.
So before we move on, we're done with the soulmate superlatives. Do you believe in soulmate?
Yes, although not in the way that you think. So, from my understanding, from all of my wisdom of learning and studying spiritual, how do I even say it? I don't, spiritual's weird, but truth. Let's just go with that because studying and understanding and learning more about truth of what is. Soulmates, and this, I don't know a whole lot about this because there's not a whole lot taught about this from that perspective, from this big perspective. But the one thing that I do know is that we all have one, and it is usually not romantic. Your soulmate is like the another part of your higher consciousness, and it is not typically romantic. Your soulmate not even be here on this planet. That soulmate have incarnated on a completely different planet, and or it may be here now and might even be someone that you don't even really like or a friend. Yeah, it's different than we think it is. And so we use the term soulmate as, this partnership of love and this deep connection, but and that's a connection and a part of your soul contract with this soul. However, it's not the term exactly of soulmate. Like this is a lifelong thing. And there are some stories that have been shared around that with saints, about, meeting the soulmate and then just feeling like, okay, now I feel complete, not even having necessarily any kind of even friendship with that person, but just feeling that that person, that soul is there and you've connected with it on some level. I mean, it's very, very different than what we think it is. And I can't really give you more than that because that's all that I've been taught. And so I know that my teacher really didn't want to go into all of that in detail because we don't need to find it. We don't need to search for it. And a lot of people were like, oh, I want to find my soulmate. And no, that's not what is important on this journey. What's important on this journey is that you expand your consciousness and you come into more of a love of yourself and others. Love is always the answer. And we're talking about Valentine's Day and the whole love theme. Love is how we expand ourselves. Self-love is where it all begins. It doesn't start with the external and loving others. It actually starts with you loving yourself. And when you fully love and embrace yourself, who you are and how you are fully and completely, we have more capacity to love others because we're filled with love. Mm-hmm. And when we're filled with love, we can give more love. And we want to receive that and receive and give that. So there's so many ways to do that. If you're feeling like you don't have a lot of self-love or you don't, you have a negative relationship with yourself to some degree, I highly encourage you to work on that. Work on loving yourself. And, you can do that through really focusing on opening your heart, being more kind to yourself, doing things for yourself that you would want to do for other people. Like taking better care of yourself, self-love in the way of nurturing yourself, feeding yourself well, working out, doing those kinds of simple things, of course. But even on a deeper level, how do you speak to yourself? What are you saying to yourself? I know some people really struggle with that and they beat themselves up in their head. Oh, I'm so stupid. And why did I do that? And, like all these negative thoughts about themselves, degrading themselves. Would you ever talk to your friend like that or your loved one like that? Would you ever say those things? Oh, you're stupid. And if you do, that's just proving even more how much you don't love yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so starting within, reflecting on your relationship with love, what is that? How do you actually love yourself and care and take care of you? And not just give everything away to everyone else. But self-love and acceptance really needs to happen before you can truly, truly love another person.
Yeah, love that. Truth. All right, soulmates. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is you talking. You're helping someone manifest their perfect partner. Okay? So you're going to fill in the blank. The universe, please send them. So, dear universe, please send them someone who is blank, but not blank.
Okay. So that is very individual. And I can't answer it in such simple terms. I work with people a lot on this, actually. So, when somebody is really wanting to have a relationship and finding a partner, what I ask them to do is write down all the values and morals that are important to them, all the traits that you want in a person. For example, someone who's funny, someone who is very joyful, someone who likes adventure, somebody who is very serious about their work, someone who is very determined to be a certain kind of success. I mean, all kinds of ways, all the things, right? What kind of job they have, what are their interests, what kind of hobbies do they like, what kind of values are they? Are they focused on spiritual growth or personal growth? Are they, do they very sedentary? I mean, all the things, right? Whatever it is, write them all down. And then they write all these things down and they see them and are like, yes, these are important to me. Then
a good practice for any single people out there.
Yeah. Then I have them look at that and say, okay, now I want you to look at yourself and see, out of all these traits and values, what do you possess? Are you those things that you want to attract? Because if you're not, then you're not going to attract it. So become the person that you want to attract. And that is where the work lies then. And they're like, okay, yeah, well, I'm really not funny, but I want to be. Well, maybe you can work on your humor a little bit, being lighter, being silly, certain things like that, right? Or I want someone who's very successful, but I'm not successful. Well, maybe you need to focus on your work and maybe being, maybe you need to go back to school or whatever it is, right? And so then they start aligning themselves in a place where they can attract what they desire, because we are magnetic creatures. We're just energy patterns, right? And I don't want to make that light, like, oh, we're only energy patterns. I mean, we're powerful beings. We are beings of light, and we're made of energy. And it's like a magnet, like attracts like what we are. So it's not that we are going to meet the person who's just like us, but they have, because that's kind of impossible, but they have values. They have the traits that you want in a partner, because you are that too. So if you're a really depressed person, you're going to attract a depressive person, for example.
I was just listening to this in a podcast this morning, Jenny, and this is exactly what they were describing about going in from, toxic relationship to bouncing until you find that person. And it's the exact same thing that you just said. It's you keep attracting what you believe in yourself, what you believe you're worth, you keep attracting that. And until you fix this, you're going to keep attracting what you feel in here. It's a reflection. Man, that's so wild. Yeah.
It's exactly what we are. We are our reflections of ourselves. What we see, what we experience in the world is a pure reflection of our inner consciousness. That's it. I mean, so, stop blaming other people for your life. Stop blaming external situations for what's happening. Take responsibility for yourself and say, okay, what's going on with me? How do I really feel about myself? How do I think about myself? How do I act towards myself? How do I show up in life? Who am I? Because if I'm filled with anger and resentment, then that's what I am experiencing.
So, it's kind of bringing me to this question. If someone's feeling stuck in love, whether they're single or struggling in a relationship, like if they're single or struggling in a relationship, what is the one mindset shift or practice that can help them attract the love they desire? And I feel as if you have already answered that, right?
Self-love is the answer, right? Opening your heart to loving yourself so you can practice loving kindness meditation towards yourself. I have a meditation that I call loving energy, where you're imagining there's a beam of light in the center of your chest. And this beam of light is filled with love, and you're pulling that beam of love. You see that beam of light moving out, and it is going towards someone else. So you see that person that might be struggling, and you can see yourself, like you're looking at in a mirror, and you're shining that beam of light out to that person, out to yourself, and you're receiving that love. Loving energy is super important. So we need to be in love with ourselves, and not from an egotistical standpoint, right? Not ego-based love, which is seeking validation, needing control. We're talking about soul-based love, which is expansion and freedom and selflessness, giving. But when you give, you receive tenfold back. And so it's this beautiful dance of energy, right? We give love, we receive love, we feel love for ourselves, we emanate that out. We are vibrational beings, and our energy affects the whole. Mm-hmm. So when we love ourselves, we automatically are loving other people and everything.
Right. And I wrote this down because it was the only thing I wrote down when I was listening to that this morning, because I was like, oh my gosh, this kind of, I think it's beautiful, and it makes sense with what we're going to talk about today. And the man who said it was Erwin McManus. And that's who I listened to on a podcast. But he said about other people, step into their soul, not their shoes. And I was like, that saying, like, step into someone else's shoes. He was like, step into their soul. And I was like, that's so much more deep, and kind of changes for me. It's not as on the surface. And like, oh, step in someone else's shoes. It's like, step into their soul. Really try to empathize with people.
Interesting way to put it. I feel like a lot of times we really do forget that we are a soul, that we are these beautiful light beings. And we get so caught up in this day-to-day materialism and the physical body as this deep identification. And that doesn't help us, really. I mean, it limits us and it shrinks us. And we are magnificent, magnificent beings of light. And we really need to remember that. So, step into another soul. It's a sweet saying, but what does
That's what
that
I think.
really mean? I mean, connecting with someone on the deepest level is not an easy thing to do, but it's definitely, it's where you're feeling, you're leaning into your heart, you're going into your heart and feeling their presence versus the thinking mind, or, trying to figure things out or understand them from an intellectual standpoint, but actually just going into your heart and connecting with them heart to heart, which doesn't require any words or any action.
Mm-hmm.
It's being with them on the highest level. And that can be with anyone. They don't have to be in a physical body. Your loved ones who may have passed, if maybe your husband or wife has passed and left this body, and you're missing them, talk to their soul. They're here. They're not somewhere far up in the clouds. They're right here. We just are veiled because we have come into this material world and have really signed up to be fully embodied in it. And so we have amnesia on purpose. And we can't see that other side. Most people can't see that other side, but some can. And they're right here. So talk with them. And even the ones who are still in body, talk with them in their highest way, in your highest way. In your mind. Telepathy is real. I mean, we don't have to, they might not be able to receive it, but it's.
Layla must hear me loud and proud because I talk to her all the time.
Who?
Layla.
Your daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Truth or divine? What's one love lesson you had to learn the hard way? The name of the game is truth or divine. That's not the answers. One love lesson you had to learn the hard way.
You can't make anyone love you. I've been in love only a few times in my life. Really, maybe one other time. Yeah, one other time. Yeah. And that person didn't love me the way I loved that person. And I had to accept it. And it was not easy. It's like, yeah, he definitely doesn't feel the way I feel. And you try to make it happen and make them feel the way you do. It's impossible. So accept it.
That's a good one. I think I want to answer that one because I think it's definitely that my hardest lesson is that you cannot change someone. So either accept who they are or you move on because you're going to be miserable either way.
100%. 100%. That's something that I share with people often. Do not think that you're going to change that person. If you don't like how they are now and you don't think that they're, the right fit, but they could be if they did X, Y, Z, and maybe they will. Not going to happen. I mean,
and one of the hardest things to also understand is that if you present ideas of change to this person that you love so much and they agree, it's not going to happen. They have to present the ideas of change in themselves. Now we're talking. But if you're like, I would love it if you could do this, if you would stop doing that, she's like, oh my gosh, I will. I love you. I won't do that. And forget it. That's been my hardest lesson.
I completely agree with you in the way of they have to want to do it themselves and come to you with it and do it on their own. It cannot be forced. When people do this with me, sometimes I want my husband to talk with you. I want my spouse, my wife. They need, your counseling. No, they have to want to. You can't make them. They're not going to come to see me and talk with me get anywhere if they
Not
don't want to.
open, not open. They're not going to come to you open.
They're not, yeah, they're doing anything out of obligation because your wife or husband told you to is not the way to go. So please don't do that. It doesn't work. And I won't even accept the client. No, because they're not ready. You can't force it. It's not gonna work.
Yep, those are two good ones. Okay. Have you ever felt an instant soul connection with someone?
Yes, definitely. And it's never been.
I feel like you say this often. Like,
It's
not that you say it often. I feel like I've heard you have multiple experiences. You've said to me, oh my God, you actually say those words. I felt so connected to this person. Yes, go on with that.
Yes, it has happened to me several times in my life, and it's never been a romantic thing. It's always been just a soul recognition. And I'll share one story with you, which I just remembered this not that long ago, and it was the most interesting. We were in Austin, and I was with Dave, my husband, and then our cousin Amanda, and we were going to listen to some music. It was a Sunday afternoon, and where we were going, there was right in this big parking lot was a little gathering where there was tents and people were selling things, and it was like a little market thing. It was really like this pop-up. It was really cool. So we stopped in and we were walking around and looking at all the art and stuff. Go up to this booth. This lady was standing there, and as soon as we looked at each other, I can't really describe it, but we knew each other. And we had never seen each other before, but we looked and we were like, hi. And we hugged, and then we just had this connection. And then I bought this pen from her that had like this feather on it. It was really beautiful. And I was like, I'm not even kidding. We were crying. Like I literally was crying. And then we left, and I was like, I know that woman. And I never saw her again, and nothing else happened with it, but it was definitely a soul remembrance. We had some connection from some past life. We didn't even talk about it. We just knew. And then we had to go, and it was it. So absolutely, that is true. When you meet somebody and you just say, wow, that feels familiar. Oh, they just feel right. Like, oh, I just really like this person because there's some history there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I've had that happen also.
It's beautiful. So it's just, to me, always more and more confirmation that reincarnation is real, that we are infinite beings, that we have had many relationships of all kinds with all different souls all over. And it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's like, I don't know, this life.
Yeah, I know that I've told you that's the first time that I saw with my eyes my first husband. Never has it happened to me before, again, anything. It literally, my whole body went whoosh. And I was like, what just happened? And like, what happened inside me? Like, what is this? And I went straight over to him and introduced myself instantly. Like, it was like, there was nothing stopping me. Like, even if they tried, I was going, and I now, years later, and, doing all of this work, and realize that so we were talking about love at first sight earlier, and I think that was a mistaken love at first sight. That was unfinished business in a past life, 100%. That we by mistake brought into this life thinking that we could finish the business correctly, and it was a disaster. So we had divine and disaster earlier. Well, and that's okay. It was wonderful disaster for all the beautiful reasons, and, all great feelings for my past. Yeah. No regrets.
No. And lots of learning, so much learning.
Yeah, lots of learning.
And I do feel, do you feel, I guess that really is the question, that you have completed your karma with him? Long pause.
We'll see you all in episode 11 next week, and goodbye. Yeah, wow, never had that question, before. I'm gonna, what do you plead the fifth? Is that the note talking?
Sure.
I'm gonna go with that one.
Yeah. And you probably don't even know that answer really deep down, the truth of it. But sometimes we get a sense like it feels complete. And sometimes it's not. And you might have to meet again in another life to continue to work it out.
We're not friends anymore. Why don't you take your truth outside? Guess I'm gonna live forever. Okay, here we go. You're getting into these questions. I'm loving it. Okay, you're like taking them far. What's one thing you've been totally wrong about when it comes to love?
I want you to answer this too.
Okay.
What is one thing I've been totally wrong about when it comes to love? It's interesting because I don't have really high expectations for things. Like, I don't know if there's anything I can name and pinpoint that I've been totally wrong about with love. I tease sometimes and say I have really good relationship karma. Like Dave and I have had a few years that were really hard out of 26 years, which I think is pretty great. And it was a lot of it had to do with health issues and, anxiety that was apparent in certain times. But it was never about our love. It was never like questioning if we should stay together. That was never a question. It was outside other things that caused us to have challenges. But I wouldn't say, I don't think I have an answer, a definitive answer on that. Do you?
For some reason, my head is going towards thinking like, I feel like I'm a Pisces and we're like so romantic and all we're in the clouds and we know how we are. So I think that the younger version of myself really fed into that. And I was just like, there's one person for everybody and all that. And on the other hand, there could be one person for everybody. And I don't believe that there's a right or wrong way. And I think I used to believe that there was a right or wrong way. Like if you meet somebody at 20 years old and you are happy and you're laughing every day and you're still with them at 30 and you have people saying, but you didn't see enough people and you didn't kiss enough frogs and you didn't have enough life experience. And if it's so hard to find somebody that's awesome. I mean, if you find them early and you're happy, don't let anybody tell you different. And the same thing, vice versa. If you've been in a marriage that people expect you to stay in, and maybe you're not, nobody cheated, but you're like, I don't feel this anymore. It's okay. It's also okay to say this person wasn't for me forever. And I'm going to have the courage here. And it doesn't always have to be because somebody was mean or cheated, or maybe it's just coming to terms with, I was expected to be this, our society, my world around me expected us to be together. And I'm not feeling it. And that's okay.
Yes. I think not all relationships are meant to last a lifetime.
Right.
But you want to really look at that in a deep way, not just because I'm bored and I'm not feeling anymore.
No. Yeah.
Right.
No, I've experienced that as well. So, it's not that you don't like the person anymore, love the person anymore. You're just like, I'm not in love the way that I should be in this type of relationship, that kind of thing. So that's always a very hard, tricky relationship to be into.
Yes. All things come to an end at some point, right? Whether it's just after we leave the body or, they change. We do take, upon leaving, we take, obviously, our souls we are a soul. And then we do take all these experiences with us and relationships with us, because they don't end, they just change. And you will maybe meet them again in another life or on the other side. They don't just disappear. So people are very important. Relationships are very important in all ways. Friends and family and lovers and whatever, all the things, they're all very valuable. And we want to honor them and if we're feeling like it's over, like it's time to end, it's really great to do that in a very high conscious way, ideally. There's actually a really great book that I've had some clients read called, let's see, Conscious Uncoupling, I think it's called. And I'll give it to you to remind, you can put it in the show notes.
I was like, I don't need that book. I got to. I'm actually going to write that down. Yes.
You don't need that book. I'll send it to you. Conscious Uncoupling, where, you're seeing and realizing this isn't working anymore. We're not on the same page. We don't feel it anymore. We're not in love anymore, but we don't hate each other and we don't want to, just end abruptly. But actually, conscious uncoupling it's a beautiful way to end a relationship if you're on the same page, which not is always the case. Even if it's not the case, and I've worked with people who are not on the same page with it, but are willing to do this deeper work and uncouple in a conscious way with love and respect. That's ideal because, again, not all relationships are meant to last a whole lifetime. And that's okay. You're not a failure. You didn't do anything wrong necessarily. It's experience. And maybe the karma with that person has come to an end. And maybe there's someone else that you need to have other relationships with in this life that are waiting for you. There are good ways to do this.
Yeah. Going back to the question that I wanted to avoid. Yeah, yes. The answer is yes. Done. There's no more.
Can you remind everybody what you're talking about?
There's no unfinished karma or soul meeting with my past husband. It's definitely, the work has been done. And I can say that without, I'm not going to get personal because I'd like to keep my personal. However, I can say that very confidently, very healthily, in a very healthy way, that yes, with gratitude, we shall keep the ending closed.
I agree with you, actually. I do think it's done because of who you are now.
Yeah.
You're a completely different person, and you don't need to have that any kind of experience like that again. Or that's the other part about this is it's not that you necessarily have to be with a certain soul again to work out your karma. You'll receive other experiences that are like that will help you to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be with that exact same soul, right? Just like, some people keep repeating the same experiences over and over again,
right?
Attracting the same person that doesn't work for them over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And until they grow enough and understand, they're going to continue to do that.
Okay. This is the last question on this. What's the most divine sign you've ever received about a relationship?
Ooh, divine sign that I ever received about a relationship. I wouldn't say it's really apparent. Like the signs are often very subtle, and sometimes I don't realize what the lesson was until after the fact, and I can think about, when I think about relationships and what you're saying, I'm not thinking about romantic relationships. I've had the same partner for 26 years. And so I think about friendships in my life that have come to an end and that have been difficult to see my side of things. Like why did that end? Like, what did I do wrong? Or how was I showing up that maybe made this relationship come to an end, friendship come to an end? Looking at how we can learn more about ourselves. So I've had signs of like, this isn't working out in friendships. But I think friendships can be, to me, I don't end a friendship unless, I mean, if I do, I want to have a conversation about it.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
That doesn't happen.
No.
I mean, from the other person, I've tried. Like, I've had a really close friend who just kind of almost dropped me like a hot potato in a way. And I couldn't understand why. And it was really difficult. But I did my own work on
Yeah,
it, right?
me
And
too.
I wrote letters and burned them and did all the things of like, okay, you know what? I recognize looking back that it was exactly as it needed to be. And it was as long as it needed to be.
What is that saying? People are in your life for, what is it?
A reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Okay. And I couldn't think of the third. Okay. Reason, season, life. Yeah.
And this person was very much for a reason, very much for very specific reasons that helped me tremendously grow in many different ways. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that it happened. I'm so grateful what I learned. And I'm so grateful that it's over because it wasn't healthy for me in the long term. And I didn't realize that till it was over. And I looked back and learned from it and recognized control and lots of things that weren't healthy for me. But I needed that experience. So all things that happen are for us and they give us opportunities to expand our consciousness. That's the bottom line. That's what this whole story is about, right? Expanding our consciousness, learning from our experiences. And especially those that are the most challenging for us. As you know, they're our greatest teachers, those people.
Mm-hmm.
And we need gratitude.
Yeah. Like, how could you, I'm trying to think of how would you, not you, how would you ever choose season over reason, right? Because I feel like there's always a reason. So where would season come in if there has to be a reason, right? Like, why would I ever say, no, that was just a season, you know?
Yeah, there is always a reason, but there
Right.
also can be a season.
And maybe Susan is somebody that you had a great relationship with and they moved away and you just grew apart because of the distance. That could be a season. Like they moved into your town, they were here for a year and then they had to move again. And so it was a season because there was no like reason that you were trying to deeply figure out. You were just like, oh, I'm going to miss you. And then you grew apart. That could be a season.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's always still a reason. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's always a reason. There can be just a season. And then, of course, a lifetime is a different thing. And there's a longer rhythm there for you with that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. What is a small but powerful way we can bring more love into our daily lives beyond just romantic relationships?
This goes back to loving yourself, right? I mean, seeing your divinity, feeling it, and then seeing the divine in others. Whatever, whoever, all people, all things are divine. And when you can see their light, even if their light is really dim, even if maybe they're not the nicest person, they still are divine beings. And so remembering that we can be in love all the time with life, with ourselves, seeing the light in other people, and loving fully without any expectation is hard, but that's ideal, right? Not having expectation that they're going to love you as much in return, but actually doing it fully because you know they're divine and you know that they're doing their best wherever they are on their journey of their soul's evolution. So cultivating that love within yourself, meditating on your heart being open, meditating on the idea that love is permeating all things and feeling that love in your heart and sharing that with everyone you can, because we all need love. You can write a love letter to yourself.
I like that.
Valentine, a love letter to yourself.
I wrote down a quote I saw on Instagram. Unfortunately, it was anonymous. There was no name, but it was just sweet. And again, the Pisces in me was like, okay, I love this. It said, start romanticizing your everyday life. And it gave examples of like, you're drinking a cup of coffee. Drink that coffee like it's the best cup of coffee you've ever had. Like the appreciation, like when you're in a romantic situation, you feel that way, right? You feel all the feels and you get a little bit like tingly they're saying do it in everyday, try to do that in your everyday life with the simplest things, your cup of tea, you know? And I loved that.
You know what that totally reminds me of? First thing I thought of was Pap, our grandfather.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every meal was the best meal
Best
he'd
meal
ever
you ever
had.
had.
He was in love with life.
Yes.
He was in love with people and life. And he is a very big inspiration to me. Oof. Yeah, that got me. Loving what is, you know? So I know for me, even though, Dave and I being together for as many years as we have been, the way we act towards each other is like we're newlyweds. Like we're always like, yes, hi, and I love you, and I can't wait to see you. And I look at him and I really feel sometimes like, I'm pouring out every ounce of my love to this man because what if he's gone tomorrow?
Hmm.
And not in a morbid way or a
Right,
negative
right,
way, but
right.
like, I don't know how much time I have with him.
Right.
And I want to give it all. Like, I don't hold back with how I feel. We're very affectionate. We're very loving. We say we love each other probably 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, easily. I mean, he's off at work, but we say every morning, every evening, all the times. Like, sometimes we'll just text, I love you. We're so kind and loving to each other. And I don't think that's as common as it needs to be.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, we so easily take for granted our loved ones.
Hmm.
And we just kind of, oh yeah, they're here, they're here, they're here. And I want zero regrets. I want to look back at our life and say, I gave it my all and I lived in love every day.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. I
Makes
do.
me
I love that. I do. Well, I feel like obligated to share that Reed and I definitely have our rituals of whoever gets up first in the morning gives the other person a kiss. We always give each other a kiss before we go to bed, which Zane is very funny. He chops us apart like this. Yeah, we definitely have our rituals. We definitely do the texting thing. Even if he works from home, even if he's been busy in his office for like hours, he'll just text me kiss hug and I'll just, be doing my thing. I'm like, oh. So I know that it is a blessing to experience what it feels like to be loved unconditionally, like the real deal. Yeah.
Yeah. I want everyone to have that experience.
Mhm.
And if you don't have it with someone else, have it with yourself.
Yep. Oh, I'll tell you, for anyone out there that's single or on the verge of being single or freshly single and feeling any kind of sadness or way, I had some of the best years of my life when I was single. It was the only time that I was single, was the only time that I single makes sense. Like I was in a relationship from 14 to 21, and then from 21 to my early 30s, I can't remember what the age exactly was. So my first few years of being in my 30s was the only time my whole life I was single, and it was wonderful. Finding myself, enjoying myself, finding myself, enjoying myself over and over again. I really loved it. And I was not open or closed to a relationship. I was just in life and in love being happy, with being happy. And I always said, and I told Reed this when we became very serious dating, I said, the number one thing for me is that I'm a very happy person. If for any reason you take away any of my happiness, that's when I can't do this anymore. If you could bring more happiness to the plate, I'm in. He can tell you, I've told him this, and I said it several times. But as soon as my happiness starts to go away, that is a red flag for me because I've been there and I'm not going to go back. 8 years later, he's still bringing the joy. I mean, it's
Amen.
a two-way street. I said the same thing to him, though. And I was like, and this goes both ways. Because if I don't make you happy, I don't want, you know, that's not, this isn't all about me. It's about both of us. Yeah.
Absolutely. And one last tip of that, just agree with you so much. But just remember, and I know you know this, Susie, but I just want to say it out loud. no one can make you happy.
Right.
Happiness comes from inside of you. And if that person is bringing down your energy,
Right.
is diminishing your joy.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
I just
already
wanna,
happy. And so you need to understand that I'm a happy person and I don't have any plans on changing that. So if you want to bring more joy to the plate, let's do it. But if you're going to bring it down, no, I'm not in.
right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. And I think everybody needs to really hear that and do take some stock in that for your life. Like, how are your relationships in your life adding more joy, adding to it, not subtracting from it? It's a big, big deal. And I know that's not easy to, if you know, uncover a truth that you didn't, you know, you're realizing, wow, I'm really not happy in this. I know that's not easy, but there is a way forward.
Well, cheers to love, self-love, romantic love, love for your pets, love, love, love for life. And I love you. Thank you for doing this fun podcast with me every week.
I love you.
Yay! Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day, and all is well.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Sister Sessions podcast. If you found inspiration in today's conversation, we'd love it if you shared the episode with your besties, family, or even your favorite neighbors. We'll be back next week with more to share, but until then, remember, meditation is the key to unlocking your inner peace. All is well, friends. See you soon.